Ever since the trailer for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was released, my mind has been busy thinking on how important this new film will be for the series. I haven't been able to find anyone else talking about the reality of Fallen Kingdom's plot synopsis just yet, which is odd in my opinion because this chapter is being pitched as the realization of something that was discussed way back when the events of Jurassic Park actually took place. Back in 1993, John Hammond invited Drs. Grant and Ellie Sattler to his island resort in order to inspect his dinosaur theme park and prove its safety to the ever-cautious investors. Now, of course, Dr. Malcolm also attended this weekend excursion, and the Chaotician had quite a lot to say to Mr. Hammond in regards of the recreation of prehistoric life, Goldblum being famously quoted with the line, "Genetic power is the most awesome force this planet has ever seen, but you wield it like a kid who's found his dad's gun." This statement wasn't made to be taken lightly, and Ian's desperate warning to John was not only a disapproval of ethical value, but also a very valid criticism of the very thought that such an introduction of complex systems could easily be automated and controlled. The failure of Jurassic Park was always and will always be inevitable. Life was literally transported millions of years into the future in a vastly different world bearing little resemblance to what these creatures were genetically adapted to. No one at this resort knew anything about these extinct ecosystems from various geologic periods, yet control was something they believed to have acquired, despite the eons of change that the world had gone through between these eras. Malcolm's chaos theory was brought forward in an attempt to sober Hammond's mind to the reality of such dynamic systems being highly sensitive to initial conditions. But we are now 25 years later and 4 films down the road, with the 5th coming out very soon. This 5th film, Fallen Kingdom, is promising to deliver the dinosaurs away from the islands that they have been left on for these past 2 decades, and introduce them elsewhere in the world where coexistence with man may very well be an upcoming event. This was something that John Hammond averted himself in 1997, with the expedition to Isla Sorna revealing the dinosaurs to the global public, and the isolation of Site B being put in place as a major barrier that divided their world from ours. For all intents and purposes, the ending of The Lost World left the planet with the safest possible scenario to follow, in the very real effort to leave these ancient beasts alone and let them live away from our homes peacefully and in full respect. But now that a rescue operation is being prepared by Claire Deering of the Dinosaur Protection Group, the ultimate paradigm shift may finally be upon the franchise. In the past, Jurassic Park films have been stereotyped as being nothing more than B-movies about people running around on an island full of dinosaurs, with a constant critical jab being thrown at the series for constructing contrived ways for protagonists to re-enter the domain of these extinct creatures. Now, of course, if you're someone that has watched some of my videos before in the past, you'll know by now that especially for parts 2 and 4 of this franchise, there is a lot more going on than what a run-of-the-mill movie channel or YouTube film spoof show will tell you. Of course, Jurassic Park 3 was designed to be a direct reincarnation of those older dino flicks, so it doesn't really factor into the franchise's consensus, even though I'm pretty sure some commentators would love to tell people otherwise. But the reality is nothing that transpires in that film furthers any of the storylines set up in the first 2 movies with the company InGen, or the state of a changed world with people aware of the existence of dinosaurs, except for a 13-year-old getting stuck on Site B after a pretty dumb parasailing trip was made. Both The Lost World and Jurassic World have taken baby steps at furthering the equations set by Dr. Malcolm in the first movie. Leaving Sorna alone for more people to stumble upon in the future and get killed or transport any creatures to the mainland is obviously a stupid idea, and Hammond's bold expedition being a last-ditch effort at keeping these dinosaurs away from reaching the public turned out to be a successful one. Now, in canon, Jurassic World opened in 2005 after Mr. Hammond sold his company and passed away in 1998, and the failure of this separate theme park had far more consequences than the original ever did. I'm not going to go into any meta messages and underlying themes that exist in either of these sequels, because I want to just get to the point and talk about the evolution of this problem that is yet to be addressed. Jurassic Park failed in 1993, with most of the remaining dinosaurs being left on Nublar to die of lysine deficiency. The only known survivor of this event was the Tyrannosaurus that InGen had cloned for the park. In 1997, a British family on a yacht cruise stumbled upon Site B, and after their daughter was injured by a pack of Compsognathus, the board of directors relinquished Hammond's role as CEO of the company and put his nephew Peter Ludlow in place of him. Ludlow assembled a team of mercenaries and hunters to capture surviving dinosaurs on Isla Sorna to be used in a theme park built in San Diego on American soil. Fearing further casualties, Hammond tried to beat his nephew in a race by documenting the animals' ecosystems and presenting them to an authoritative state. If Hammond just sat back and let Peter do his job, Jurassic Park would fail again, this time on the mainland, and the resulting chaos would be far greater than what we had seen before. Hiring an extreme environmentalists to combat Ludlow's far superior forces, Hammond successfully prevented most of the dinosaurs from getting off of the island. But another mistake presented itself in hiring Nick Van Owen as a backup plan. I did a whole video on this. This bleeding heart ventured a step too far when he sabotaged Roland Tembo's double-barreled rifle by pulling the bullets and leaving behind empty, useless shells, because of the big game hunter's admittance in attempting to kill a buck tyrannosaur for sport. The irony of the environmentalists' efforts to stop the hunting party he sees as cruel and morally bankrupt by using excessive force and sabotage plays a large role in the capture of the T-Rex, as Roland was forced to tranquilize the animal instead of killing it, leading to the San Diego incident. Ergo, the butterfly has flapped its wings, and rain has come instead of expected sunshine. After reacquiring the Rex and moving it back to Site B, the island was declared a restricted biological preserve, and its protection was under Costa Rican and American jurisdiction. In 2001, a smaller incident transpired with the young boy getting lost on this same island, resulting in Alan Grant's kidnapping and transportation to Site B by the boy's parents in a rescue mission that lasted quite briefly. And as mentioned earlier, Jurassic World was opened in 2005 and would remain a safe and secure tourist attraction until 2015, where the park fell into chaos after a genetically hybridized carnivore broke out of containment and killed several members of staff and park assets. Now in 2018, a volcanic eruption threatens the survivors of this last incident, with a hearing being put in place to determine what the government's role should be in reacting to such an event. This hearing calls Ian Malcolm to make a testimony on what course of action be necessary, with the chaotician's ominous warnings being echoed, now 25 years after the initial problem presented itself to him in 1993. Taking dinosaurs off of that island will result in the biggest shift and challenge of power man would go through in its entire existence on this planet. Going back to Malcolm's lessons in the folly of trying to control these prehistoric beasts, mankind may now be presented with the introduction of several complex systems that we may have no answer for solving. To illustrate what exactly this will mean, I want to go back to what Crichton wrote in the original novel that spawned this multi-billion-dollar franchise. During the course of Jurassic Park, the chapters are broken into sections where fractals slowly begin to materialize as a dragon curve, insinuating a far more complex set of dynamic systems and a lack of control to them than what John Hammond had originally envisioned. Quotes by Ian Malcolm accompany these curves, saying the following: "At the earliest drawings of the fractal curve, few clues to the underlying mathematical structure will be seen. With subsequent drawings of the fractal curve, sudden changes may appear. Details emerge more clearly as the fractal curve is redrawn. Inevitably, underlying instabilities begin to appear. Flaws in the system will now become severe. System recovery may prove impossible. Increasingly, the mathematics will demand the courage to face its implications." I believe we are now approaching the 5th iteration of Crichton's fractal dragon curve in the series, and iterations 6 and 7 will no doubt be upon the franchise quickly after the passing of Nublar transpired, and the dinosaurs are taken off of the island. If we take a moment to actually ask ourselves what the world may be like if an event like this were to eventually pass, an answer several would jump to would be that mankind would be absolutely fine. In fact, I think many people would come to the conclusion that we as human beings are far too intelligent, advanced, and superior of a species comparatively to any of the dinosaurs that were cloned for Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. With that being the case, let's say that dinosaurs stumbled upon us. Picture a scenario in which your own personal neighborhood was suddenly introduced to a wandering Brachiosaurus. The sauropod was just walking around where you lived. Nothing more, nothing less. Eventually, the sheer size of the body and tail may come into contact with man-made buildings and structures. You would be hard-pressed to stop an animal that big, take a step forward, and accidentally destroy a power line or crush a car. Maybe it brushes against a tree that falls on top of a house or simply steps on someone you personally know. No big deal, right? We can fix this simply by killing it. Our solution to a situation like this would be to call in a military unit of some kind and just blow it away. But then what? Sure, you killed the dinosaur, but now what are you going to do about the body that weighs several tons that's just collapsed onto the grounds of your home? Guess you better begin to move it. That, in and of itself, will be a whole other problem. But eventually, you do get rid of it, and have nothing more to worry about. Except for the high costs of property destruction, lives lost, and the military being called in to save you. Now what happens if it happens again? What will happen if events like these keep happening despite every single scenario being met with the culling of such a powerful behemoth? Now imagine a couple dozen different species, with their own unique behavioral traits, sizes, and abilities being introduced to our own world alongside it. What would this do to the natural ecosystems that we as human beings have become adapted to survive in? Are these species as easy to control as we perceive them to be? Sure, Mr. Hammond did something that no one had ever done before, but Malcolm correctly asserts that just because this power was attainable by the eccentric billionaire, it doesn't quite answer the question of whether or not it should have even been attempted. Colin Trevorrow has stated specifically that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was written entirely around a quote spoken by Alan Grant during this debate over lunch in Jurassic Park. Dinosaurs and man, two species separated by 65 million years of evolution, have just been suddenly thrown back into the mix together. How can we possibly have the slightest idea of what to expect? Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom will not be a story about people running away from dinosaurs on an island. It will not be a story about a theme park being created to accommodate genetic recreations of prehistoric animals for the public to buy tickets and see. It will be a story about confronting the complicated equation that John Hammond brought forward when he first hatched a dinosaur out of an artificial egg, and will finally be the chapter that continues what was set up in the original movie. There are no barriers or blockades in the way of this new installment in the series, and we may be getting closer to the release of the movie that actually shows us how prehistoric life seriously finds its own way to survive. And I for one think that this is not only long overdue, but something that I am eagerly awaiting the release of. As a fan of this franchise since its beginning, I can't wait for June of 2018. Wow, that went on way longer than I wanted it to. Now I seriously want to thank you all for watching this video and hope you all enjoyed today's content. If you feel like I deserved it, I would appreciate the like and hope you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on the series as a whole in the comments down below. And tell me what you think this fifth film could mean for the franchise. I think it's pretty important. Now I'll see all of you in the next video, guys. And as always, take it easy.